Welcome to another edition of the Up and Down presented by EliteSportsBetting.com. I'm your host, Fried Egg Paulie, here once again with Frank Brank. How's it going, Frank?
Good, man. Interesting tournament last week. Patrick Reed gained, was -1 off the tee, plus 2 strokes on approach, and plus 12 putting, and steals a tournament on the weekend. Pretty remarkable, but that's kind of how he wins, right? Like when he does win, that's basically how he has to get it because he's not an overly long hitter. He's not an overly accurate hitter. You know, his iron game's good, but it's not great. It's just whether or not he gains 12 strokes putting or not, and he tends to do it a lot for some reason.
Yeah, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, and he just happens to get it done. Only has to happen once or twice a year where you happen to catch fire at the right time. And when you get the opportunity, he tends to close it out a lot of times. So
He is a good closer. He is a good closer, I will say. Yeah.
So this week, you got any news or notes? We're heading over to the Honda Classic here in Florida.
Yeah, PGA National. We're scooting over to this side of the globe, this side of the country for me. Tough course. Scores are usually around 10, between 8 and 12. I don't remember. I was looking at the scores yesterday, and I went back quite a bit, in maybe like 6-7 years, and the lowest score was 12 under. From what I understand, there was some rain coming this week, and it's going to be windy over the weekend apparently. And now that's obviously always subject to change with the weather, but it could play tough. We could see it maybe on the lower end. 7,100 yards, but it's a par 70. And then, of course, the 4, 5, and 6 stretch is a really tough stretch of holes. 15, 16, 17, the bear traps, tough stretch of holes. Some of the hardest stretches on the PGA Tour on those two. Water on 15 different holes, I think. Water touches 15 different holes, and a lot of bunkers. So there's going through the data and going through my model, there's a little bit of emphasis on driving accuracy. And on approach, there's a little bit of a bump on approach. So, but we have seen longer hitters win here. Keith Mitchell won last year. Ricky's had a lot of success here. He's not overly long, but he's a good ball striker, of course. So it's kind of a weird mix of long shots that kind of manage and get their way around the course and shoot 2-3 under every day, and some really good ball strikers. Those are the guys that tend to have success here. That middle ground, the guys that are more heavily reliant on putting and short game, maybe not so much around this course. So.
Yeah, this week's definitely a little bit different than a normal tour week, where we're seeing the winning score usually around 20 under in a normal week. The last 7 years here, the winning score I think has been, or the last 8 years has been anywhere between 6 and 12 under par, like you said. Which means, these guys don't have to go super low. They just kind of have to stay afloat. And then the reason for that is just the way the golf course is set up. It's so difficult with so many really tough holes that, as you mentioned, those 2 stretches, that's a third of the golf course, those six holes, right? That only leaves you 12 other holes to really score on, because you're not necessarily looking for birdies on those 6 tough holes, right? You're just trying to survive and avoid the big number. Because especially in the bear trap where we have all the water, we've seen guys come into that playing, good for the round, and all of a sudden play 7 over in a 3-hole stretch, and you're off the turf. And so what that means is that we tend to have some, a little bit higher variance in results, and that's shown by what we've seen here from the past with the, who's won this event. Keith Mitchell won last year, I think around 175-1. The 3 years before that, you had all the top players. When you had Justin Thomas at 10-1. Ricky in 2017 won at 15-1. Adam Scott at 20-1 in 2016. And then the 3 years before that, it was crazy. Padraig Harrington won at 300-1. Henley won at 180-1, and Michael Thompson won at 350-1. So it's either
Wai Yang is one here. Yeah, Luke Donald, some crazy names. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have some guys who are way out there that you really wouldn't expect, and that's just because it's possible where all the top guys literally not actually shit the bed, but just have problems, on the bear trap, and are just taking themselves out of contention. And
Any one of those holes doubles in play with one bad strike, right? Like
exactly.
one miss hit and doubles in play. And even on the par 3, 17's the par 3, right? These guys will air long, and then they get in that back bunker, and they've got to come back down the hill, and you see balls going in the water there. So, like, double is always in play on that hole if you're not sitting on the green.
Yeah, but then the other thing about this in terms of like somebody, from way out there from a long shot winning the event is the leaderboard here is usually super condensed. And the reason for that is it's hard for somebody to separate themselves because no one, it's really difficult to come out here and shoot 7, 8 under in the golf course, right? Like a good round out here most days is like 3 or 4 under. So we've seen in the results, or if you look at like the last 8 years, you've had Keith Mitchell won by a stroke, Thomas won the playoff, Fowler won by 4 shots, Scott won by 1, Harrington won a playoff, Henley won a playoff. So it's very, very close. And so that means going down that stretch of the bear trap, like 1 or 2 shots, if you have 1 shot in the water, you can go from leading to 8th place. And all it takes is just one, hot back nine for one of these guys who's 300 to 1 to be, 2 shots off the lead heading in the back nine, 3 under, and he kind of backdoors.
Yep. There's so many people will be live coming into Sunday. Very similar to Riviera 2 weeks ago, I think, with so many guys. Just anyone shoots 66 on Sunday and they can probably win.
Yeah. The only difference I would say with Riviera is Riviera doesn't have the ability for massive blow up holes. It has the ability to kind of like nickel and dime you to death, meaning you're just going to make a lot of regular bogeys. You're not going to have the propensity to make triples and quads.
Right. I just mean the condensed leaderboard.
Correct.
I mean, Scott loses on Sunday there if someone just holds it together and shoots 65, 66 or something down the stretch. And nobody did, thankfully. And this is a par 70, so there's, less opportunity to score on some par 5s that, other courses might have too. So that condenses the leaderboard too. It takes eagle out of play pretty much, on 2 holes. So. That brings everybody else into play. So top of the board this week, Brooks, not surprising. Fleetwood up there as well. I've seen him as low as 10 to 1, which is kind of surprising to me. I don't think he's won on the PGA Tour yet. He has played well. He played well over in Europe in the Saudi events, and he's played decent since he's come back to the U.S. And then Fowler, who's played great here, is sitting around 14 to 1. I don't have any interest in these guys, and I'm going to go ahead and say you probably don't either.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy I usually use for Honda, especially the way the field is this year, because the field's a little bit weaker up top because of the scheduling, right? Because they go Riviera, then you go WGC Mexico, and then you go here. So it's really tough for the guys that played Tigers event in Riviera. They don't want to play 3 weeks in a row. So that's why you're not seeing a bunch of top guys. I mean, that's why you don't see Justin Thomas here, right? I mean, Thomas lives 5 minutes from here, I believe. So, and he's not playing a home event just because of scheduling issues. So it kind of sucks for the event because he all used to play here 3-4 years ago, and now they don't. But with these guys on top,
you get Bay Hill next week. So
yeah, I mean, when you have guys up the top who aren't necessarily known closers, like is Fleetwood a known closer? No. Is Fowler a known closer? No. Sure, you got Koepka up there, but it's a non-major, and he hasn't been playing that great of late. Do you think he's 10, 11 to 1? Too high for him, or I think he should probably be 15 to 1, 20 to 1 in this field.
Yeah. For a guy who basically admitted that he has no interest in a lot of these events.
Exactly, and then before you know it, you go 4 or 5 players down the field, and you're looking at Ben On and Daniel Berger, or he's like at 35 to 1 or 30 to 1. Those guys just don't interest me because the win equity is not there. It's not like a normal event where the guys that are in the 30s and 40s are guys that have won multiple times on tour. It's just not there. And so we add that to the fact that you're expecting some high variance here. The only thing I'm playing this week is long shots. I'm going to get a large portfolio of long shots and hope to have 1 or 2 in the mix come Sunday, and then save a little bit of ammo for playing somebody live. Maybe after the 3rd round, who's 3 shots back, who's a player we know that could win in terms of like winning in the past and has the ability to shoot 65 maybe. And you could get them probably 50, 60 to 1 heading into Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. I will have some guys in the mid-range here. Kind of some, Patrick Reed-esque plays. Guys that kind of just hoping that they gain some strokes putting, some ball strikers at the top. That being said, I'll start things off with I took my favorite bet of the week was from at least guys that aren't at the very top was Horschel at 33-1, I believe I got on DraftKings. This field is just too weak. He does have some win equity. He's improved. He's had T9, T9, I think, the last 2 weeks. He has 4 top 10s so far this year. He had 4 top 10s last year. So he does seem to be improving. He's a decent iron player, pretty accurate off the tee. He did gain some length, it looks like, this year. He's swinging a little bit harder. So I like Horschel this week. He's just kind of gaining strokes everywhere, and he's, probably should be just in the 20s somewhere price-wise, I think. He's it seems like when he putts well, he wins, or he's competing in the top 10 somewhere around there. So definitely smart enough to get around here. He strikes the ball well enough to get around here. So I took a little bit of a flyer and hoping for some putting luck with Horschel at 33-1 this week. So that'll be my first play off the board there.
Yeah, in terms of Horschel, it's definitely a very good fit. We're also thing to note is now we're back in Florida. We're back on Bermuda here. So we tend to, the first couple weeks here, you can kind of catch the bookies, sleeping a little bit, books sleeping, because they're not adjusting some of the numbers. I don't necessarily know if you do this in your model, just based on grass type, players play differently, right? So like a lot of the West Coast is on putting on Poe, not putting on Bermuda, besides things like Waste Management's on Bermuda, I believe. But besides that, it's mostly Poe out there. And now you're going to Florida with Bermuda greens, Bermuda grass elsewhere. That's a big difference for a lot of these guys. That's what they grew up on. And guys who didn't grow up on Bermuda, for those non-golfers out there, that's a massive difference, because basically if you're reading a 15-foot putt on Bermuda greens, if you don't realize which way the grain is growing, and by grain I mean the way the grass is physically growing on the greens, you can miss the putt by like a foot or two on your read, because it could look like it's going right to left, but the grass is growing the other way, and it will literally move it. The grass is that strong.
So just to explain what I think Paulie's talking about. Now, I golf, and I know Paulie's a very accomplished golfer, much more so than me. So Bermuda's very grainy, right? What you would call grainy. So like you said, the way the grass is growing can really influence the putt, and actually reading where the grass is growing, whether you'll see it on the broadcast, sometimes it's shiny or dull. The color changes based on which way that grass is growing, and it can change how the putt moves. I had played on Bermuda a few weeks ago when I was down in North Carolina, and it was, I'm not playing on PGA Tour courses, but I was fooled multiple times on just downhill, uphill putts. If the grain's growing with or against you, the speed difference is astronomical.
Yeah, it can make a good putter look stupid pretty easily. You're like, Wait, what just happened? That was you have a 10-foot putt and you leave it 3 feet short. Your friend's looking like, dude, hit it. I'm like, I did.
Right. Yeah. So that can be a big factor, and it's certainly something that I don't factor in the model, but it's something I pay attention to on who's played well where.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. In terms of the guys I'm going for this week, I think my closest person to the top, I think, is actually at 85-1, anywhere between 85 and 400-1. So the first guy off the board for me at 85-1 was actually Lee Westwood, believe it or not. So Westwood won on the European Tour earlier this year. He is an absolutely elite iron player, and I think his numbers are just way too high in this field, just because the books kind of just don't really classify Westwood as a winner, and there's not as much data on him because he doesn't play much on the PGA Tour, right? Plays primarily in Europe. He's one of the top iron players in Europe, and this is a course where elite iron players have had success. And he hasn't played here in 4 years, but before that, he had 3 top 10s in a 6-year stretch, made all 6 of those cuts. And that's enough for me to where if Westwood's playing good, his weakness in his game is putting. And this is a course where you don't really have to putt your way around it. You just have to avoid trouble. Westwood's a plotter. He's a guy where when he is in contention, he's a veteran, smart enough to where he can aim away from pins. He can flight the ball down, and when it's windy, he's a very good wind player because he can flight it
It's a
down.
nice controlled fade off the tee box. Yeah.
Exactly. And at 85-1, that's just too high of a number for me. So I'm not saying a Lee Westwood fan, but 85-1, I'm going to have to play.
And he's played great lately.
Yeah.
Over in Europe, he's been in the top 10 in one event and then been in the top 10 quite a bit.
He finished 22nd last week, nice and quietly. So that's a solid finish at the WGC.
Yeah, and that's a very particular event as well, where, like you said, you have to birdie so many. You have to gain 12 strokes putting to win. You know.
Well, not necessarily.
Do that here.
It's a course that wouldn't necessarily suit Weston because it's a bomber, right?
Right.
So he finished 22nd in a course in an event that doesn't really suit him. So that's kind of a good trend in my opinion in terms of where his game goes.
Yep. Next guy for me is going to be Hovland. I feel like an idiot chasing his win last week, but he didn't really play against anybody. He did putt a little bit better, so that's the main thing with Hovland, right? I mean, he just can't do anything around the green. Even when he won, the first thing he said was like, "Man, I really have to work around the greens." But like you said here, you don't really need to do that too much. I have him as the top ball striker in the field this week, and I'm getting double the price as he was last week. Field's a little bit better, sure, but I don't think it's twice better. Like that field last week was horrendous, and he was like 11-1 or 12-1 to win last week. So he hits 75% of the fairways last year. He's at 72% of the fairways this year. He's gonna need to putt to win. I realize that he may not do that, but just on his ball striking alone, I think he's going to compete here. I have him second off the tee and third on approach in this field, and like I said, in first in ball striking when you add those two up. So I'm going to nibble on some Hovland here at 28-1. I thought he should be closer to maybe 20-1, and particularly in this field, that's not very good. I don't think that even right now that Ricky Fowler's has better win equity than Hovland right now. Like, I don't necessarily agree that that's the case, but maybe around here it is. But that Hovland is he's too good of a ball striker, I think, to be 28-1 in this field.
Yeah, I could definitely see a Hovland play this week. The only thing for me is the letdown after the win for a top player, a top young player. I've seen in the past where they kind of not let off the gas the next week, but you have a little bit of celebration, and all of a sudden you come in and it's a little bit of a flat spot. Kind of like you see sometimes in basketball where a team gets a very big win, and then all of a sudden the next time you see them play, you're like, oh, they should be, carry the momentum, and all of a sudden 8 minutes into the game, they're just getting obliterated because they just kind of came out flat. That's the only thing that worries me about Hovland this week.
And I have been betting him, which is depressing that he, I had no interest in betting him in that field at like the 12-1 or whatever it was. So
yeah, I mean, the other thing last week was only like a 120-player field. Like, there was legitimately only about 35 guys that could have won last week. So it was almost like kind of like a limited field event because there's 85 guys that had absolutely no chance.
Right. So who are you looking at? I guess you went, 85-1? What are you going to go to?
85-1 all the way up to 4-1. I mean, there's not necessarily massive strong leans. It's just playing all the edges. So one of the other ones I had was Sam Burns at 125-1. So Burns is a guy who has played very well in Florida, plays really, really well in Bermuda, especially putting. He's a bomber off the tee. He's kind of like a Brooks Koepka, in my opinion, in the fact that when he plays well, he can look unbelievable. And then when he doesn't play well, he looks completely disinterested. So he's played the event twice. 2 years ago, he finished 8th here. I believe that was like as a sponsors invite or Monday qualifier that week. And he was actually in contention there. He's played pretty well of late. He's at, finished 23rd, 49th, 6th, a couple missed cuts mixed in there the last couple over the last month or so. And it just one of the numbers is too high for, I got him closer to about 85-1 and you're getting 125. So I'm just pretty much getting a portfolio together of guys who I think have value. And do I think Sam Burns wins this week? No. Do I think his 125 is too high? Yes.
I do have a small edge on him as well. And like you said, 10th in the field on approach, 27th in putting, or sorry, 10th in the field off the tee, 27th in putting. So he is up there. 26th in ball striking, so definitely a candidate that I didn't play him, but I had a small edge on him, and I certainly would have a small edge on him, 127 or 125 to 1 for sure. Yeah, I like that play. He kind of reminds me of Keith Mitchell in a way, right? Like kind of can bomb it off the tee, maybe not so polished with the rest of his game, but he putts well enough to win for sure. And like you said, he has competed to win lately. I'm going to go further down now as well. I did add in, I think I did play a couple guys further down the board in the 50s, 80s range, but my big play this week is going to be Hoagie at 125 to 1. I don't think we've seen Tom Hoagie since the Pro-Am, I think. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he did compete at Farmers and he played really well. He's played really well as of late. I have him 4th in this field on approach. Not particularly great driver of the ball, but accurate enough to get around here if he can avoid the big numbers. He's 14th in ball striking in this field and 19th tee to green and 24th in putting. So similar to you, like, do I think Hoagie wins this week? Probably not. But I think he's another guy who's good enough, and like I said, I'm going to emphasize approach and accuracy off the tee. He's good enough to get around here and maybe have a chance on Sunday.
Yeah, but and that's what we're talking about. Any of these guys that are 100 to 1 or higher, like it doesn't take much to grab value on them, because if you have 1 or 2 of them around the leaderboard on Sunday, your job's already done, right? You're just asking for a chip in the chair and a chance.
He's from North Carolina, so I'm assuming he has plenty of experience on Bermuda.
And if you can just get a guy in contention on the back nine, you can have hedge equity as well, right? When you have such a big number like this, right? Because your investment is so small in them, you're not. It's not like you're playing a guy that's 15, 20 to 1, and you have a large amount down on him, and you're worried about trying to get some equity off it. Like, you have a small investment, and he's over triple digits. So.
And the main thing down in this range, you're just looking for the ball strikers, right? Guys that kind of fit the course and guys that can hit approach shots good enough to win in a way, or at least have a chance on Sunday.
Yeah, so as one of my last plays here, I'll toss out one of my super long shots, and that's going to be before we move on to like head-to-head and stuff like that. And that's going to be Matt Every at 400 to 1. And so Every's won multiple times in the PGA Tour. He's won at Bay Hill twice, which is in Florida. He is a Bermuda specialist and has the ability to, every once in a while, I kind of call it Siwoo Kim disease. We've talked about Siwoo Kim in the past, where when Siwoo Kim plays well, he's in the top 10, and when he's not, he misses the cut by 8. Right? Matt Every's the exact same way. Whenever his game is on, he'll stay at the top of the leaderboard. When it's off, he'll miss the cut. So he's an extremely high variant player, and he'll catch fire once or twice a year. And we just keep getting hot. This is one of those like non-Bermuda adjustments. He plays the West Coast terrible usually because he's not good putting on Poe. You get him back on Bermuda, Florida guy here, went to the University of Florida and stuff like that. It's just 400 to 1, just a crazy number for a guy who should be probably closer to about 150, 160 to 1. I'm getting more than double odds.
Yeah. Now, granted, the double is very small.
but I'm just picking on value. So, you know, if you're taking, let's say 5 guys who are 400 to 1 and they all should be 150 to 1, that's, you're just soaking up value. That's all it is.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't know that he was from, what'd you say, Florida?
Yeah, he went to school at University of Florida with that. So he's played pretty much in Bermuda golf is Bermuda greens, grasses.
I have him gaining strokes off the tee. Is he pretty long? Is he more of an accurate guy?
No, he's kind of middle of the road there. He'll hit probably about 290, 295 off the tee. He's just more of a guy who I call him kind of like a heater type player, because when his game is on, he can literally just shoot 0. He'll just go like rapid fire, birdie, 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 and then when his game's off, he'll shoot 85. So.
Okay, so matchup wise, is there anything you've found, picked out, anything you like, whether it's on the offshores or DraftKings or? Yeah,
there's one that I played very heavy on, and it was available on offshores as well as DraftKings and FanDuel. I know FanDuel for sure, not sure about DraftKings. And that was Tommy Fleetwood minus 110 over Brooks Koepka this week. In terms of like handicapping this matchup, you can look at it this way, right? Sure, over the long haul, these two players are fairly probably equal in like a head-to-head matchup, you would think, right? But
Yeah.
you have to program in a couple things here. Fleetwood's elite consistency, and by elite consistency is like Fleetwood hardly ever finishes outside the top 10 in like greens and regulation or strokes gained approach in an event. And of course, where you're going to have to strike the ball very well, Fleetwood has elite upside in terms of finishing top 20. So like the chance of him hitting the top 20 frame is very high this week. So you're pretty much now looking at that versus Brooks Koepka, who is a player who, as we talked about earlier, when it's a non-elite event, the effort just usually isn't there. So in my opinion, there's about a 15-20% chance Koepka misses the cut this week, and there's about a 5 to 8% chance Fleetwood does. So they're right there. You got a 12 to 15% chance of winning it before the weekend is if you get to, right? And then you get the other fact, like if Koepka makes the weekend and he's in 45th place and doesn't start out well on Saturday, he's not going to care the rest of the event, and he's going to finish 50th, which is in another case where Fleetwood is a guy who he's kind of like the Matt Kuchar of the European Tour, meaning the dude just grinds out his rounds. He'll shoot, in this event, he may shoot like 68, 72, 68, 70.
It was a great ball
leaderboard
striker
on Sunday, and he finishes 14, like 13. Right?
Yeah, I mean he's a great ball striker. He always strikes it well. So he always has a chance to shoot 66 or something like that and move up the board, right?
So you're looking at a head-to-head, you're handicapping against Koepka, and it's close to even money. That's just way, way too low of a line. So I'm very heavy on Fleetwood over Koepka this week.
And you look at Koepka, he withdrew at the CJ Cup, I think?
Yeah.
And then he was like 30th at Abu Dhabi, and then was a little bit better at the Saudi International, but he had some bad holes and a couple bad rounds in there. And then T43 at the Genesis, we haven't seen him. He didn't play Mexico. So you have to also wonder if he's really trying to manage his health and just trying to win majors at this point. It's almost like the Tiger approach, where it's like, he already had that mentality to begin with, but since he's been re-injured, it was like, well, it seems like he's pretty disinterested all around. And you're getting Fleetwood, who has been played great in the European Tour, and now he came back and he played fine last week, right? So I agree. I think the variance here definitely favors Fleetwood. The talent level is probably on Brooks' side, but the variance where you look at how do they perform week to week and what are their up and downs, and Fleetwood's more of a straight line, right? Yep. So it makes a lot of sense to me. Whereas, like you're saying, from a win equity perspective, you're going to get great Koepka or you're going to get bad Koepka. Yep. So Fleetwood's going to grind out for sure.
So what's one of your top matchups on this week?
I'm going to take I'm just looking at the model here. Streelman was my biggest edge this week. Streelman minus 102 against Johnny Vegas. Johnny Vegas, obviously, good driver of the ball. Doesn't really do much else. He really struggled last week, actually, and then he shot 10 under on Sunday. Whereas you look at Streelman, he's not a good putter, but like you said, you don't really need that here. He's 13th in this field, tee to green. Not a great chipper, 15th in ball striking. So, it's really just like, should Vegas be like minus 114 over Streelman? Like, I really don't think so. They're around the same price range, but Vegas is accurate off the tee. He still has some length in him, but he's losing strokes on approach. He's losing strokes around the green. He's losing a ton of strokes putting. So it's just like Streelman, I think, is just the better golfer and has been the better golfer. And I think if the number's probably a little bit different here, if Johnny Vegas doesn't shoot 10 under on Sunday in a meaningless round in Puerto Rico last week. We're going to take Streelman. What did I say? Minus 102, I think.
Yeah, against Vegas. Yep. Yeah. And so if you're looking for the rest of our betting card, you can find it all on elitesportsbetting.com. We'll have everything up there from Frank and I for outrights, head-to-head matchups. I'll also play, we might play so like top 20s and stuff like that. I'll also do first-round bets, first-round leaders. Also have bets for other events, such as the European Tour event, the Oman Open this week. I'll have some bets up there for head-to-head matchups because you can find some value in some of these small field events because the books don't know how to price certain matchups for different players. So if you can have, data and understand who these players are, you can get value there as well. Is there any other closing comments you want to have here, Frank?
No, I might add in some top 20s here. And once they start coming up, I didn't get a good look at a lot of them yet. So we are doing this Tuesday morning for those of you that are watching later. So I'll probably get some top 20s up here, guys that are good ball strikers and maybe can't putt, and see if we can get some long shots, some top 20 bets here.
All right, sounds good. So this has been another edition of the Up and Down here with Paulie and Frank, and we'll see you guys next week.